Episode 2. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the pairings that we got going on here at the Ophidiarium, the animals behind it, and a little more detail on them. And then also I'm going to go into a little bit about the hobby, the reptile hobby as a whole, the community, and what it's been like in my experiences as I've put myself out into the hobby. And stick around. First, I wanted to talk a little bit about my impression of the hobby as a whole, and being a newer reptile keeper and breeder, what it's been like. And I call myself newer even though I've been keeping reptiles since 2020. I would still say that that's pretty new. I feel like there's people who are out there who have had snakes for 30, 40 years, and they have so much knowledge and something to aspire to, but that's all kind of part of it. We were given our first snake. It was a ball python, and I knew going into it right out the get-go that I wanted to research this because I didn't want to just jump into it not knowing how to properly take care of this type of an animal. I had kept all sorts of other animals in the past, but this was something totally different than anything I kept before. So I knew right then and there that I needed to be sure on what I was doing. So I started researching stuff online, and there's a ton of really good resources online. And there's information out there for anybody to take from. And I'd like to kind of put some of those out there where I would say are good resources for learning and educating yourself on these type of animals. I really found that podcasts were my preferred way of taking in information and learning about reptiles and how to care for them even better. The long form version of listening to somebody have a conversation with somebody else or just explaining from their own experience, I found that very helpful. I'm able to take a drive to and from work. That's a 40-minute trip, so that's a long chunk of the day that I can just kind of turn something on and let it play and listen to a lot of the information that's in that. Some of my favorite podcasts out there that are reptile related are the NPR network. I would say that that's definitely one of the, it's definitely the longest standing reptile podcast, and really great content, great guys, and they have really good a variety of different species and stuff that they cover through a couple different channels that they support. And I even went to Carpet Fest this past summer, and that was really a good experience. I really enjoyed myself and felt like I was welcomed into their group as they just kind of were hanging out and having a barbecue. So that was really cool. I plan on going to the next one in the next summer here. So that's one place I would definitely recommend to gain information through that podcast network. There's also the Whole Back Rack podcast run by Jessica Hare that I feel like is a great source of information. Really good interviews. She does a really good job. Definitely recommend her. I would tell you Snakes and the Fat Man as well is a great podcast, but it's not really a reptile podcast, self-proclaimed as such. But he's definitely a great entertainer and fun to be around. And I was actually featured on his show for the 15 Minutes of Lame episode. And that was a really fun experience this past year. So check him out. Just know that it's a self-proclaimed fart joke podcast. So apart from listening to virtual information and sharing of snake stuff, there's really nothing I would think is better than actual face-to-face conversations you can have. Which probably the best way to do that would be through going to one of your local reptile expos, and you can talk with breeders and keepers there. There's really nothing that I feel like is better than that face-to-face communication that you can have and conversation with somebody like that. And it just takes a Google search really to find what the local one is to you, because they're all over, different places, different cities, different times of the year. So definitely look into those as a source of contacting and communicating with somebody in a really personal way. This past weekend I was actually at the Hamburg Reptile show that's at its new location in Morgantown, PA. There's a lot of really cool vendors there. I got to hang out most of the time with Chris from B&S Reptilia. Really great guy. Very inviting, very open, and just being a person who I can bounce information off of and kind of just chat snake stuff with. He's been very helpful, and I really appreciate that connection that we've been able to make. And I'd say for the most part, everybody I've met in these different reptile expos and different outings and events that I've been at reptile related, most everybody I've met and talked to has been really inviting, and it's been really nice to see that. I think once I got over my initial awkward, antisocial tendencies that I know are not unique to myself, that I was able to make really good connections and really learn a lot of information from a lot of different people. Okay, so I'm going to dive now into a little bit about our pairings that we have for this upcoming season. So right now I have 3 ball python pairings and 1 carpet python pairing that we're working on. For the ball pythons, we have a pied clutch. The male is a banana pied, and the female, I believe, is just a pied, but she might be black pastel pied. I'm not sure on that yet. We also have a hypo pied pairing that I'm kind of working on with maybe making and holding back some double hets for future building blocks in our breeding program. And our 3rd ball python pairing is a little bit of a long game project that I am pretty excited for, though. Working on some highway black lace holdbacks to build up for the future. Really excited about that project moving forward. And then the 4th pairing we have going on is our Papuan carpet pythons. I'm really excited to do this and see how it plays out for this season, but no guarantees if it is. I'm not 100% sure if she's going to go the whole distance. And I haven't seen any locks confirmed with her in the male, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. So we'll just kind of keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll see some good results this season. If not, we'll just stack it for next year and see how it goes then. I think the keeping of the snakes is what definitely got us into this hobby, but the breeding side of the keeping them has grown out of this. I don't ever want to lose or compromise how we care for our animals as we breed them, but I do think that growing into breeding and not just keeping them has built a whole other level of appreciation in myself for these animals. All right, that's going to be it for this episode. I hope you got something out of that and enjoyed it. Please consider liking the video and commenting. If you want to follow along for any future installments, feel free to subscribe to the channel, and have a good week.